But in 1990, I won't go through all of it, God showed me in a vision a train that was passing behind my house. It was a freight train. I was doing education advocacy. Some of the young people out here in the audience are some of the folks that I've advocated for who are now adults. And that train, it was a freight train. And inside my home, I was trying to save children. There were children inside of my home, and I was pushing them to the back of my house because I knew that there was some danger. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that there was some danger. And so when my husband came to me and he said, honey, the children need bread. So we left the home and we went to the nearest store that was a little neighborhood store to gather bread. As I sat there, my spirit became uneasy, and I decided, let me leave. So I went behind the house, behind the store. When I got behind the store, one of the biggest demons was standing behind that store that you would ever see in your life. The demon spoke and he said, now we can complete our plan. When I got back to my house, I got into the house and I went into the back room where the children were, to find that the children were okay, but happened to look out the window. And when I looked out the window, there was this train, this freight train that was coming. People, I want to tell you that freight train, you ever seen the trains that haul lumber? Mm-hmm. Well, instead of lumber, it was children. Dead children that were piled up on that train. I mean, as high as you could see, and it looked like about 40 or 50 carloads. And all of those children, they were dead, they were naked children. Years later, I asked God, what does that mean? But you know what? I understand very clearly what it means, and it represents the number of children that we have lost. Yes. The number of children that we have lost, hundreds and thousands and thousands and thousands of children across this country that have been lost to the vicious homeschool prison cycle. If that's not enough to move you, then I don't know what is.
Geraldine Alshami is a 30-year grassroots community organizer and active researcher. Active research is an investigative evaluation and analytical research method requiring active participation in identifying and resolving community problems. It identifies root causes, strengths, weaknesses, and develops practical solutions. Lessons learned become a repeatable process and model for improvement.
At North Carolina Fair Share, CDC, our theory of change is based on the belief that our members are the leaders we are waiting for, who knows the problems better. As the lead collaborative partner and sponsoring agency, we had an incredible opportunity to practice our model of change through the implementation of the Martin Luther King Jr. Content of Character, Arts, Essay, and Technology competition.
In my own communities, I began to see a lot of the young people that were on the streets. This was like mid 80s. Began to see a lot of kids on the streets. Couldn't figure out why there were so many kids that were on the streets that should have been in school at that time. So, me being the person that I am, I asked. I started asking them, so why aren't you in school? Or what's your name and why aren't you in school? And they would say, I'm suspended or I'm expelled. And so I would ask the question, well, why are you expelled? So many times they couldn't tell me why they were suspended from school. It was amazing to me that 90.9% of the time, the parents didn't know why they were out of school. Many times there wouldn't be a suspension notice. And so what I found was that they were just out for all of these frivolous infractions. Things like disrespect to the teacher. That could have been something as simple as the teacher said, move your feet out the aisle. And they said, oh man, we've been talking about the school to prison pipeline in Wake County. School-based arrest and suspension data are very disturbing. Last year, there were 736 school-based complaints filed against students 15 years and younger. 35% of the county's juvenile arrests came from SROs. SROs are not required to undergo any training, not cultural competency training, adolescent development training, or students' rights training. Additionally, students with disabilities are arrested for the manifestation of their disability. In 2011, there were 2,168 school-based complaints. There were 411 jail admissions and 286 detentions. Students with disabilities were only 13.1% of the school population, but 31.3% of suspended students. Economically disadvantaged students were 32.4% of the student population, yet 63.8% of suspensions. 72.2% of black students were suspended for longer periods of time for the same offense as their white counterpart. So we ask ourselves, why are low-income African American and Latino students not being successful in public schools? Are children receiving free and reduced lunch and not performing at grade level proficiency being pushed out of schools to satisfy annual yearly progress?
So I just want to give a quick overview of the school to prison pipeline in Wake County, about how this is all interrelated, how this is part of a historical pattern of using public education to oppress certain people. I talk about how this fits into the prison industrial complex. I talk about how it fits into the new $150 million jail and what our sheriff said about if you build it, they will come. And I talk about all the factors that go into this, things like poverty and abuse and neglect and the failures of the social services system, the lack of parental involvement, the high stakes testing, overcrowding, budget cuts, overburdened public defenders.
When a child is comes into a classroom and then you begin to see the difference in how you're treated versus your white counterpart, what do you think happens? If he's raising his hand, which is what happens with my son a lot, if he does raise his hand and he's ignored, what happens? They become the invisible child in the classroom. In schools, it's virtual. I realize sometimes it's virtually impossible because it starts with the tattletale thing. But last year we showed a video of some kids who were 17 and 18 years of age, who were at that point in this school prison pipeline. And what they talked about, when we talked about what got them there, they started talking about from the being bullied at the time that they were very, very young, like first and second grade, and talked about losing it by the time they got into the fourth grade and committed some serious act of rage, and that's what got them into trouble. I just heard that same thing. I just heard that same thing. We have got to take this issue more serious, and we have got to look at resolutions that are not school-based. Did you hear me? We have got to start looking at resolutions that are not school-based, but are community-based. Here with a group of awesome young people from the Mary B. Phillips High School. Talk to me a little bit more about your worst experience in school.
Like, it starts at an early age, from preschool to elementary, through middle, through high. It's like in the fourth grade, you got teachers telling you stupid and everything. I had a teacher duct tape me to a chair and put duct tape on my mouth because she didn't like the way I was talking.
You literally had a teacher duct tape your mouth and tape you to a chair.
It was crazy because the way it happened, I was standing up talking. The teacher was reading the book and they didn't feel like reading the book. And I was talking and the teacher told me to go to her desk, get the tape off of her desk and to sit down in the chair. And when I sat down in the chair, she came over to me, put the tape on my mouth, and put the tape around my body. And I just sat there until she felt like taking it back off.
How has that shaped your frame of thinking about teachers, Darius? Did that have a long-term effect on you around teachers? Did it make you act any better?
Not really. That actually just made me stay away from teachers until I got until the 8th grade over at Wakefield. And when I was at Wakefield, it was some pretty good teachers there that actually made me feel that I was welcome at school and that my safety was guaranteed. It was like they had faith in me, and because they had faith in me, that's what made me have faith in myself.
I can just say to you that this I call it the homeschool prison cycle has been very detrimental for many families, and all it has done is really set our children up for a slave system, and it is the new Jim Crow. Tell her hello. Say maybe we'll be seeing each other sometime. But on a good note.
October is anti-bullying month in the Wake County schools, so students should be learning about things. It's also Disability Awareness Month, so we're trying to highlight that we need to treat all children with equity and peace and love. Thank you. Hello, y'all. Thank you for having me. First of all, my I'm Caroline Sullivan. I'm on the Wake County Board of Commissioners, and I'm also on the Board of Alliance Behavioral Health Care, which handles the public portion of the mental health, substance abuse, and developmental disability services in Wake County. And I've been a long-time advocate for children with disabilities and their families for a long time. So kids with disabilities are 2 to 3 times more likely to be bullied than their peers who don't have disabilities.
What do you understand about it? What is your perspective?
I mean, I struggled in middle school with my teachers because, like, in 7th grade, I had, like, I don't know, something wrong with me, so I was sick like at least half the year. And I mean, I took a bunch of pills, but they didn't help me. And so, like, when I ended up going to school, my teachers, they acted like I wasn't even there, so they wouldn't have to bother with me, so they could just keep teaching everybody else who's there. And
How did you, after that, how did you respond? Did you feel like, you know, nobody cares, so I don't care? Did you feel like nobody cares, but I'm gonna beat this, I'm gonna make it anyway?
I didn't really have that much self-esteem.
You didn't have that much self-esteem?
Nah, well, after, like, my teachers gave up on me, I just kind of gave up on myself, and that just, I guess, put me in a really bad place for a long while.
I was bullied, but not as you would normally see people being bullied. So when I was in 2nd grade, I was at recess. I didn't that much want to play. Then Egypt came to me and sat me down on a chair, wrapped me up with a jump rope, and didn't let me go. And she said, immediately play with me. And I said, I didn't that much want to play. And then she tried to get me to play with her anyways. And when it was time for us to get out of recess, she whipped me with the jump rope.
How did that make you feel?
It made me feel really, really sad.
Did you tell the teacher?
Yeah, but then I tried to tell her, but the teacher didn't. I didn't know if she was talking to Egypt about something.
Did you tell your mother and father?
I told my mom. But she said she was gonna have a conference in Egypt, but I don't know if she was gonna do it, because sometimes when my mom says something, she sometimes forgets.
Did it continue?
It didn't continue, but it did really hurt me for a while.
Did you tell Egypt that she hurt your feelings?
I said, well, I didn't know what to do.
She didn't know what to do.
You know what? I want to give you a big hug because you know what? I am so proud of you. No, that took a lot of courage. It took a lot of courage to stand up and tell that story. A lot of courage to stand up and tell it. Now, can you see how this hurt? What's your name?
We realize that young people stop reporting bullying as they get older, and there are 3 reasons why. One is they're afraid for their reputation. They might think that people would say that they're snitches or tattletales or things like that. The second reason is that they're afraid of retaliation. So if I tell, am I just going to be picked on or bullied more? And then the third reason that young people stop telling is reaction from adults.
Hello, my name is Jada Hester, and I'm currently a senior in high school. And this past summer, I got bullied by a person that was in a place of authority. This person was like a teacher, essentially. And so, what do you do about bullying when it's someone like in a higher place than you? Because when it's a peer, it's completely different. If it's a peer, you can always say something back. But when it's someone of authority, you can't necessarily do that, or else you're the one in trouble.